Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Quick Bites webinar with j2e5, scheduled for 15 minutes. My name is Paul Wright. I teach in two Hull primary schools, computing, and I'm also currently a part-time education consultant with j2e. I also have Alistair Cameron with me from j2e. He is manning the helpline and the chat line. So if you have any questions as we go along, if you could direct your questions to Alistair, and he will either answer those as we go, or we'll pick those up at the end, where we will allow a minute or two for a Q&A session. So as we only have 15 minutes, let's press on. Okay, here are the objectives. An introduction to j2e or DTP. It's going to be a 15-minute tutorial, and I will cover the following. All right, we'll look at basic text forming and what to do with images, and then a few examples of work that has been created by pupils, and also for teachers for sharing with pupils. Okay, so where will you find your j2e? Oh, I'm assuming that you all know how to log on. You'll find it either here, and it won't budge from there for the little words, or you'll find it on a red tile from here. It might not be third in on the top. That's just where I have mine on my desktop, but it will be on your J2 launch page somewhere. Right, I'm going to start now. I'm just going to click here, and I will start j2e5. Pardon me. And it differs from a word processor. Word processors force you into this top left to bottom right way of working, whereas desktop publishing programs, and certainly j2e5, it's far more flexible and greater ease of use initially, I think, for children. So as it says, click anywhere and type. So the first thing we'll do, we'll deal with text and formatting. So I will click anywhere and type. When I will type title, and I will nip back and give it a capital T. Okay, so really the title, that's fairly inadequate, so we need to make it bigger. So you'll notice here that over on the right hand side, as soon as you click, and I'm just going to double click, we get the conventional word processing menus. Okay, so I can choose my fonts. So as long as that box is selected, I can change my fonts in a fairly standard sort of way. I have a few more down here. And if that isn't enough for you, if I click on more fonts, you can help yourself to another 1092, which should be enough. And you can filter via different styles and types here. Okay, so let's not walk through all of those. So I've chosen my font, and you can choose your size from this menu. You're not stuck with those. If you desperately want it in 32, you can do so. But quite often, I and the children just drag it out with this bottom box here, this little square. You just hold your mouse down, or if you're on a tablet, your finger, you can drag it out to a size that looks right. So I think I'll just go back to something. Okay, so I've got title, and I've got some word processing menus. I'm going to stick that in the middle, and there we go. So I've got my title. I've got it nice and large. This button here will allow you to do that with it, which, depending on what you're designing, may be appropriate. And if you can't get it back perfectly, the undo button. Right, so that's fine, but I need to jazz that up. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to come and have a look down here. I've got the color of the text is currently black. I'm going to go and make that red. That's fine. And then here, I will come to filled, and I'm going to fill that in yellow. And if that yellow is a little too harsh, then I can come down here and pick just the shade of yellow that I wish. So that's fine. So now I'm going to come to border, and I think I'll give it a blue border. And personal preference, I'd like them rounded. Okay, so there we go. Now you might notice that down here, any color that I use is going to hang around here, because trying to get that particular red, again, by clicking here and here, will be pretty difficult, if not impossible. So any colours that you use will be there. So if I desperately want my next text, and I want that in red, I can, I can either highlight, I can conventionally highlight if I want to, or I can just click, I want that red, which is absolutely fine. Okay. What I really need to do is make sure I've got colour selected. Okay, so one thing when children are new to j2e5 is that sometimes they will click and they'll get close with a box and they'll start writing. So when I introduce this to pupils, if I want them to carry on writing in that, extending that sentence, I get them to click and the last thing that they typed, press space and carry on typing it. Okay, so if I double click again, then this arrow here will allow me to change the size of that text box. So if I was doing a poster and I didn't want my text just to be one line, I can put it into a smaller, squarer space. I can keep going and make it look an accidental acrostic. So that's fine. And again, if I wait until I've got those crosshairs, I can pick that up and put it anywhere I like on the page. Okay, and that's where the more DTP than word processing comes in. And again, in text, I can fill that and have that, and I can put a border around there. So there we are. I think that's text more or less done. So let's move on to images. This is the button where you get your pictures. Okay, now this green button here is pictures that you or I have collected over time, and they are in the My Files directory. So all these images are ones that I've either copied and pasted from the internet, or I've used the search, which I'll come to in a minute. Okay, so they're just going to stay there until you delete them. So what I want to do is to, well, it's one that I've done before, so I'll just get that cat in and drag it in. And again, I can make it bigger, or I can make it smaller. Okay, but just to show you the web search, I click over here, click on the web, and let's go and search for cat, press enter, and here we go, plenty to choose from. We'll go and get this one, and again, just click, drag it onto a page. Okay, now a couple of things that you can do with an image. First of all, you can crop it, so maybe I want to lose that area there. Maybe I just want to focus in on the slightly unusual eyes, one of each colour, and that's fine. But now, I think like most people, every image is a square off a rectangle off the web. j2e5 makes it really easy to change these. So I've just gone to an ellipse, and some of them will have this slider, so you can change that. So very quickly, I've gone from, you know, a square image of a full face of a cat with a little bit of cropping and a change of that. I can change the focus, the emphasis of that picture. And if I change my mind and I want to go back, then that's fine because I've cropped it. It's not gone, it's still there. Okay, so that's images, and this button here will duplicate it if I wanted to. Okay, so really, I mean, you could argue that DTP is words and pictures on a page, and the skill is how you put those together. When you've finished with your work, you can save it. Okay, so it's going to j2e.com, the name of your school, and the name of the user, because every user on J2E gets his or her own individual file space, and all the work is stored there. And it is available and accessible via any internet-enabled device, tablet, computer, Chromebook, Xbox, if you wish. Okay, so I'll save it as cat. Okay, now before we leave this bit, things that you can do that we have, you can zoom out. And I spent ages telling children that, you know, you should zoom out because you've got a whole piece of A4 paper there that you haven't used because it just isn't immediately obvious on screen. So I was tempted to try and do that. You have different paper sizes, the conventional ones, but you also have different screen sizes. So if you know that your work is only being published to the web, you might want to do it as a web-based page size. You can change it from portrait to landscape down here, which is very handy. This button here will allow you to change the background color. And we have 2 or 3 pupils who are dyslexic, and they find it easier to choose a specific color rather than having the harsh white. They prefer, one of them prefers like a pastel green, much easier for him to read. So that's very easy for a child to do there. And then this last button that we'll come to will be paper backgrounds, where if you like, you can just click and choose an appropriate background for your topic. Somewhere down there, there it is, there's the dinosaur one. Okay, so I can save that again. And over it goes. Okay, now as a teacher, if you encourage your children to save their work every 10 minutes, it keeps a record of their revisions. It's a really handy tool to be able to keep a tab on there, how much they have done. So I've saved that. I'm just going to close that tab down. I don't need it, and come back to the DTP. So let's have a look at some examples. This is a very simple layout, but it'll bring us on to sharing with files. So this is a file that I did for the end of term last year, and it's just boxes, basically. You put a box on a page. I'll just drop mine there for a minute. And then if you want a child to write in it, you just need to get them to lock it to a page, because otherwise every time they click, they move it. So lock it to a page, and then you can type into it. So I did this. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the undo button a few times, so that's not there. What I need to do with this file, this button here, I can share it. So I'm just going to click on share, and I'm going to come down here and share it with whatever class that I choose. I'll share it with year 4, and it's done. And then I'll share it again with year 5. Okay, and the pupils will access that file when they log on. They'll go to shared files, and they will see it there. Okay. As a teacher, you see all of these. As a pupil, you only see your class. Okay, so they will find their files in there. So if we can have a quick look at some that have been shared previously. Child in 4D will find all these files that have been shared with them. Okay, so I think that's sharing done. So let's have a look at a few examples. So that's that one, and here's an example of one that Stanley has filled in. Okay. This is a template that I made to get the children. The focus on this was getting to use the keys that need shift key. So I shared them with that. They need to edit it, and very quickly, if I unlock it, you can see that I found that clip art on the web, and I just found the speech bubbles up here. Scroll down, there's a speech bubble. Drag it out and locked it to a page. And once it's locked to a page, then the children can just click on here. Okay, and at this point they've spelled friend wrong. It underlines it in red. Right click, and it's done. There's one example. I'm just going to not save that. This is a Halloween disco invitation that one child did in year 3. Again, they searched for an image, placed it on a background, and then just added different text boxes. So if I just go and quickly edit it, you can see here, they just put different text boxes in and arranged it to make a Halloween disco invitation. I won't save it because I'll ruin her work. And lastly, we have a few examples. This is a piece of work that one of the teachers did in lockdown, but it shows how you can use backgrounds, put images as backgrounds, and present that to the children rather than just a plain something on white. Okay, there's one example. And then down here, just 2 or 3 more examples before we finish. Here is another example of lockdown learning. I provided the children with a link to some webcams in Times Square, New York, and their task was to copy and paste an image and then write underneath what they saw, what they thought was going on. So this is one pupil. This is Edward's example. and he's just given his thoughts on New York. Another child did the same camera at various times in the day, just saw it getting busier and quieter and moving into night. So again, just highlights that you can copy and paste an image off the web into j2e5, which is very useful. Australia Day, we'll just not spend too much time there. We'll move straight to the challenge. This is a file that was shared by a teacher with the children. Once you've written out your speech, record it. And this is the page. So here is Sam. Someone has obviously taken a photograph of Sam, and that's now ended up in my files and then to a J2E page. He's taken a picture of his script, and then he has recorded it.
My name is Samuel. I am happy to be here on this amazing day.
And there is a webinar scheduled later on how to use multimedia in j2e5. And lastly, we'll just have this, again, more lockdown learning. We show a pupil here has made sausages, taken pictures, and has written up what to do to stay safe eating meat. Okay, so I hope that's given you a handy introduction to the capabilities of j2e5. This webinar will be posted on the J2E website. This link, head there, head for news and the case studies. These are ones that have already been done. And this is a list of up and coming ones. Okay, so at this point, I'll just ask Alistair if there have been any questions. Alistair, have there been any questions?
Hi, Paul. Thanks ever so much for that. Great session. You've managed to brilliantly stick to schedule as well. So great job for that. Just one quick question. You have, let me just check. You've highlighted the list of examples that students have done, which are great pieces of work. I love the Halloween poster. But could you just remind people how they can actually access their classes work rather than having to link to it like this?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So as a teacher, when you log on to, you'll go to My Files, and you will then have this button here, say Pupil Files, and you can see all the classes. So any teacher can see any pupil's work at all. So if I just go and have a look in there, of course, they've all moved, so I don't know where they are now because it's a new term, but you just click on the class and you will get through and you'll see all your pupils' work in front of you. He says, getting a spinning thing just when you don't want to. Here we go. So let's go and have a look at Ava's work. I think it was her example. Right, now she's done an awful lot of work. But if you're looking for something specific, if you know what it was called, because you set it, so I'll call, I think it was called Invitation. There we go. It's got the word in. You can also, if you know it's a J2E file, you can just turn them all off and just click and search for J2E. So you're not looking for all these. It's a bit easier just to flick down and find the work that you're looking for. Is that okay, Alistair?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll just go back to Zoom. If there are no more questions, then I will thank you very much for turning up and giving up your time so early in the term. And I look forward to seeing some of you in subsequent webinars. Okay, so thank you very much for attending and good night. Have a good evening.